All right, guys. I think this is episode 42 or 43. I'm not even sure now. There's so many of them, but we got Tyler Albis here, who ironically is a one-time section champ and a one-time New York State champ. Um, I'll go with the lather as being the bigger one, but he won sections as a freshman.
Both in the same year, though.
No, he won sectionals as a freshman, and then he won states as a senior. So pretty cool career. Started off with a bang and ended with a bigger bang. But I've been coaching with John and other and Coach Jamie and all sorts of the coaches that Tyler's had. But I've been around Tyler since he was like in the 5th or 4th grade. So to see Tyler now as a guy that's like a man wrestling in college is pretty interesting. So Tyler, just like we start every single interview, how did you start wrestling in the first place? Like, how did you get into this thing?
So one day, my brother Jay came home from school, and he said that he was trying out for the wrestling team, and he told me to try it out too. So the high school had their practice, and then right after that, they had a pee-wee thingy inside John Jay. So I went there, and ever since then, I started liking it. So that's how I got into it.
What year did Jay start?
Oh, go ahead, D. I'm sorry.
Jay was wrestling when he was younger in elementary school, and then he went away from it. And then freshman year of high school, he was playing football, and one of the assistant coaches saw Jay and told him to come out to wrestling. So that's how he started it.
Jay was like a super athlete. He still is, but so is Tyler. Just different in different ways. But Tyler, what grade exactly were you in when you started? Because I know you were pretty young, but I don't remember.
I was in 4th grade, and then I started coming to Iowa Style in 5th.
5th grade. So I met you when you were 5th grade.
Yeah.
So I remember, D, you probably remember going to these tournaments because I know you would go with like the Ferreras and the Walks sometimes. But it was youth states. I don't think you were there this year though, because I remember coaching like Jacob, Sasso, all those guys with Danny Hall. So you might have, your kids were really young, Coach. Yeah, your kids were really young, so maybe you were home that one weekend, even though you went to a ton of state tournaments with them. I don't know if you were at this one. And it's ironic because I remember that state tournament, and Tyler won and Chris Perry won states, and they both are at practice today. So it's kind of pretty interesting, pretty full circle. Kind of tell us a little bit, Tyler, about your youth career in general, because that was your second year or third year of wrestling at that point. That was pretty early on. So tell us about your youth career.
So when I first started in 4th grade, obviously I wasn't the best because all I did was wrestled for the Pee Wee League. And then come 5th grade, I was wrestling all the time, but I was a second-year wrestler, and I was always behind Dennis. So me and Dennis would train, but Dennis would always beat me up. So in 5th grade, I went to the state tournament. I went like 0-2 or like 1-2. And then 6th grade came around, and me and Dennis were finally different weights. And it was like Chris Perry below me one weight class. Then it was me, and then it was like Dennis. So it was like all three of us. And then in 6th grade, me and Chris won. And then Dennis ended up taking 3rd that year. And then come 7th grade, I wrestled up.
Yeah. Do you remember MD a little bit before he got to high school or not really? Because he came to high school pretty young.
Yeah. He was in high school early, 7th grade. So
7th grade. And Tyler, correct me. Well, I mean, let's talk about youth a little bit before I jump into high school. Because your high school career spanned 6 years, so that's most of your wrestling career there. But
how many wins did you end up with
in high school?
Yeah.
248. Yeah.
What's the Greeley record, Coach?
Huh?
What's the Greeley record? It's Aaron. What does he have?
Aaron, I don't know. I have no idea. 125?
No, a little more than that, I think. But yeah.
127?
No, I think higher. I think that's what like Scotty broke was like 125-ish.
I think a little
higher. But anyway, so Tyler, when you were in youth wrestling, you said 6th grade year you kind of really came on the scene there and you won, and you were going to John Jay's kiddie practice or Pee Wee practice or youth practice, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And I do like Coach Jamie a lot. I'm sure he does a great job with those guys. I think other guys might have been involved with that too at that time. But
who ran the youth? Was it Jamie?
It was Dirk Boersma. I don't know if he had a son
around my age.
Yeah.
His son was around. You don't remember his son, D? He was okay.
I don't know, maybe.
He was around my age. I think it's section 5 or 3rd place.
Your age, I was in school. Well, I was doing the modified. When you were in high school, I was doing modified.
Yeah. So
I wish I came up. I wish I would have been up there.
Tyler, when you were doing the youth stuff with John Jay, I'm sure you guys have fun at practice. Like, what was the daily practice like in the youth wrestling John Jay room? Like, what'd you guys do?
It was typically just like drilling the basics, like high crotch, double single legs, fireman's carries, and then we'd do like a little bit of live, and then after we'd play a game. So then for me to go to Deagles after, it would be like a completely different thing. Like it was like I wasn't used to it. I wasn't ready for it at the time. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Coach Abel's jump in on this too because I want to hear your opinion. I think what you're saying, Tyler, about your local youth wrestling team or whatever is how it should be, right? If the kid,
Yeah.
you learn the basic techniques, you have some fun, you wrestle live. If you're into it, you could go take it to another level, join a club or something like that. If not, keep doing the youth, and then eventually you'll get serious in high school. I think that's the perfect recipe to get you better and make you want to stay into it, right, Coach?
Yeah, I mean it's a tough sport, So I mean, for people to stay from fifth grade all the way through is a long time. It's a lot of winter spent in the gymnasium.
Well, once he met me in the fifth grade, it's like, why would I quit this sport? This guy is just, somebody that I inspire to be like. His words, not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop, cut the shit, Tyler. All right. But so Tyler, I remember when you first came to the club because it's weird, D, because for Tyler, his brother was in the high school practice. He was still in the youth practice, but a lot of times I would shoot up from Greeley as fast as I could. And at 5:30, I believe, was youth. So it was 5:30 to 7, and then 7, 8:30 was the high school practice. But I would get to youth around 6-ish because I'd be leaving Greeley and getting there and whatever. So I would be with Tyler and those guys from the practice, and then I would coach Jay from like the 7 to 8:30 practice. Um, but if I remember correctly, and Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, we used to split up into two groups for youth when Tyler was in it, and
Yes.
John used to take Tyler, Dennis, Luca Erico, Chris Perry. He would take those guys on one side of the room, and on the other side of the room, I had PJ, Luca Duva, Natty Lopes for a little while he was there. We were split in half. Am I right on that, or was that only for some of the time?
No, I believe you're right. Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy, Coach, when you think about some of these names, the guys that stayed, right? And this is not, oh, hey, Empire's the best, and a knock at GPS or any other clubs. It's just just things I see, right? The guys that stayed from that older group, you got Tyler. I believe Tyler's the only state champion out of that group. I don't think there's any other state champion out of the group I could think of off the top of my head. Luca Erico did pretty good in preps, which is different. And Chris Perry's a 3-time All-American in prep, going for his 4th. And then on my side of the room, you had PJ, who stuck with it and stayed with us. And we all know that PJ's, a freak of nature. What do you think, Tyler? That do you think it was a good choice for you to stay the long haul and not, because when adversity hits, it was kind of like what I talked about with RJ and AJ when their friend Javon or whatever kind of lost it. They could have, or whatever that kid's name was, they could have went that way too. Now, I'm not saying guys like Lenny Balducci and Luke Erico lost it at all. They did great. They went to another club. But it was probably very easy for you to say, hey, all my friends are going this way. I could go that way, or I could stay here. Do you think you made the right choice, and what made you make that choice?
Oh, absolutely. I made the right choice. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if at the level I'm at if it wasn't for staying with you guys. But honestly, I think it was like the atmosphere in that room, like the way that practice was ran, like we would always get after it. Like we were always battling to be better, like every single day. But that's just how I feel about the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach, what do you think? I mean, to me, Coach Sabellis, and this is a question that I think some parents and other coaches just think about, I do believe that you should have kind of a system, right? I don't like the idea. I don't hate it. Like, I know Matty Lopes sometimes will go to like Buxton and come to us and go around places.
Oh, you mean just
It's not the end of the world. It's fine, especially if it's good training places. Like, some kids train with Jay, who is one of us in a sense. He went with us, and Jay's an unbelievable coach. But I do like the idea of like, believing in your coaches and kind of sticking with that, and having confidence in them because they have confidence in you. You know what I mean? Like, kind of build that relationship where now Tyler's 19. Are you 19?
18.
18, almost 19 probably, though. When do you turn 19
Yeah.
this year? But he's a freshman in college. Me and Tyler are still close. Me and Tyler still talk about wrestling, and I've known him since a fifth grader. So that makes it the relationship a little different. It probably helps somebody like me know how Tyler takes maybe a little bit more than a coach that you meet every once in a while. Now Tyler will train at other places, but he's a college guy. It's a little different. I think like committing and staying with a group is a good idea. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, you can see all these guys that came through the program are all tight.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing.
I think it's great too. And my son now, I just drop him off towards,
Yeah.
I go there and I'll just drop the kids and go because I don't want to be involved anymore really with that part of it, because now they're coming back with stories and the camaraderie that they see at the club. Now that they're buying in, and I think they're gonna have a run like this group had a run.
I think so. It'll be great. I mean, it happens every year. And Tyler, I want you to jump.
Tyler's one of the coaches now, so Tyler's
pretty much.
on
I
the
mean,
other side.
Tyler, I mean, for the people that are watching, we'll get more into Tyler's college and stuff and all that stuff, but he's at Johnson Wales and they're not having a season right now. So if Tyler gets the opportunity to stay in the room, the better, right? Like we were going over some technique today that Tyler just gets things pretty quick. And I had him showing it because he was doing it way better than I was, and I think that's, an important thing. But Tyler, to bounce back to the club thing, it's difficult because you got Jay over there at Buxton, who's a great coach, and I would trust Jay with any of our athletes. But what the shit is that? But Jay doesn't count to me, right? Jay's a guy who's doing a great job at a great club. I just feel like your coach knowing you is important. What do you think, Tyler? You think to have a good relationship with your coach to like kind of really know how you take, know about maybe a little bit about your personal life, know about your family a little bit. Like, what do you think about all that stuff?
I agree with that. Like having a coach that like very well is a good thing, because you can go to somewhere else and the coach could be really hard on you, but I can be that kid that can't take that stuff. Yeah. So if you were to be hard on me, like I've known you, like I'd be okay with it. But if it was some random person like pouncing on me, like I'd be like, all right, like this guy has to stop. Like this isn't why I'm here. I'm here to get better. I'm not here for you to bounce on me.
Yeah, and like you said, if somebody knows you and they're doing that, it might be a little bit different. There's probably a reason behind it.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's jump to high school. So I remember your 7th grade and 8th grade year pretty good. I think 8th grade you came in 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 7th grade, I can't really remember. I knew you were good, but I can't really remember how your son. So talk about your transition to high school and tell us about 7th grade, because I can't really remember it.
All right, so I just want to start off with my first ever varsity win was over a Horace Greeley guy. Section 1 duels. I don't remember his name, but I remember it. So that was that.
Did you wrestle on the same team with Perry?
Yes, because he was graduating the same year as Jay. So it was their
senior
years.
Team. Jay and Perry were seniors?
Yeah.
They had a squad. They had a state champion.
They beat us. Remember Brock was wrestling.
Oh, that was at your house. That was at your place. That was at John Jay, right, Tyler?
No, this was at Section 1 duels.
Yeah, but where did they hold it? It was up by
I think it was at Greeley.
Wasn't it RC?
It was like us, you guys, Somers, and there was one other team. But we both won in the first round, and then in the second round we faced each other, and of course we beat you guys. But
relax. But so you beat
guys. One year we got John Jay.
Which coach?
One year we got John Jay. I can't remember who.
We got him like every year, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
We lost to him at Beacon one year.
That might be that. That's what I was thinking. It was that year. But anyway, so tell us more about your 7th grade year.
So
it was at Beacon. You guys had a small team.
I think it was at Beacon. But tell us more about your 7th grade year.
So I think I won like 34-13, but I was doing pretty good at a lot of the tournaments, like top 3, and then divisionals came around. I took first, and then sectionals. I believe the 4 seed, and I ended up losing in the quarterfinals. So I got pushed into the wrestlebacks, and then I made it up to the blood round, and I was winning like 12-3, and ended up getting pinned in the 3rd period.
Who was it? Do you remember?
I believe it was Ryan Stern from Clarkstown North.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Well, there's so many interesting stories, Coach, and we'll get into it a little bit more, how he weaves in with guys like Nate.
6 years. He's like a Matt Grippy.
What?
6 years. He went 6 years.
Oh, yeah. So, it's pretty interesting to me, Tyler, that, 6th grade, you were a youth state champ, but you were a baby. Like, you were a little kid wrestling other little kids. And then all of a sudden, you jump up to varsity, you win 30-plus matches, you're round of 12, and you probably should have won that match and been all section your 7th grade year. It was a really successful year. But then comes eighth grade, and you make a substantial jump because you were in there with, if I remember now, I think my memory is getting more into there. You had Warlaw and Justin Lopez ahead of you.
Yeah.
And you were third. And now those are two superstars. That's a state finalist and in third place in New York State. Those are two like very, very good guys. But I think you beat Warlaw once that year, and you almost beat Justin maybe at Easterns or something like that. You gave him a good match, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what made the difference there from 7th to 8th grade? Confidence, age? Like, what was it?
I don't know. I think it was just like getting the hang of the 2-2-2 periods, and then like finally adjusting and making that switch into this is high school wrestling now. But that year was a standout year for me in a sense, from not placing in the section to beating a kid that takes second in the state and then taking third at the section. So
yeah, it was pretty cool. And not to go like back and forth a little bit, because I feel like I'm a little all over the place today, but Jay was a senior when you were a 7th grader or when you were an 8th grader?
In 7th grade.
She was a senior in 7th grade. So I did know you when you were 5th grade, because I remember Jay. I just started to learn Jay when he was in 11th grade, and we were still at pace coach for sectionals. And I remember watching Jay wrestle, and I'm like, man, this kid's athletic. This kid's going to be good. And little did I know that his little brother was going to come through and be the better of the two. You know, at least in high school, Jay ended up being a 2-time NCAA champ and a superstar. But Tyler, being a state champ, one-upped him a little bit there. You know, pretty good family of wrestling when you got a state finals and a state champ, you know, at the Thanksgiving dinner table. It's not a bad thing. But so, you know, 8th grade was fun. What happened at sectionals? Who did you lose to in the semifinals?
That year I lost to Wardlaw by like 1 or 2 points. I gave up a reversal late in the third, and that was crucial.
And was top always your thing even then?
Yes, pretty much. But I was so much lighter, so I would always do like reattacks, and I'd shoot blast doubles from space, and they'd be more effective then because I was a little bit more explosive. But top was always mainly my thing.
Yeah. Now, Coach, you want to hear some funny stuff? So we get into the freshman year, and there's all season stuff if Tyler wants to talk about 8th grade, summer, all of that stuff. But we get into freshman year, and like I said earlier in the interview, this is when Tyler wins his only section title, which is pretty crazy. But the whole season coming up, now this is when Greeley had a really good year this year. This is the year we took 4th, I believe, and we had we had Sasso, we had Nadler, we had Jacob Ferreira, we had Aaron Walk, we had Matt Schreiber, and we had a freshman all-section wrestler in Nate Ferreira, the weight class above Tyler Albis, right? And Nate beat that kid Stern, I think, to be all-section, the kid that beat Tyler back in the day in 7th grade. And Tyler and I were doing lessons that year. I don't know if you remember this, Tyler, but me and him, his freshman year, were doing lessons. So after Greeley practice, I would do a private lesson with Tyler. I would get up to the club, I would do a private, and then I would do the 7 o'clock practice. And his partner, you know, I would help Tyler out. I'm like, I'll get you a partner. I'll get you a partner. And I used to take Jacob and Nate up to practice, right? Or used to take them up to practice. I don't care. Fire me. So I used to take them up to practice, and Coach Bells didn't know anything about it, people that are watching, but I just break the rules. I don't even care. So like I went up to practice. Fire me. I'm here. But I went up to practice, and Nate would be with me. So I'm like, hey, let me try to get Nate a little benefit here. Like Tyler would hit 5, Nate would hit 1 or something, or 2, and Tyler would hit 5 because it was Tyler's lesson. But Nate was the guy, and I find it really interesting that, you know, 3 years later, Tyler's a state champion. 3 years later, Nate's nowhere to be found. And I still care about Nate, and he's a good kid. And I think he's doing pretty good in college. But again, it's the same thing. It's so crazy how you could go 2 different directions. Like Tyler was definitely better than Nate at that time, but it wasn't like, you know, like this. It was here. You know, Nate was tough. Nate was tough. Nate would have been super successful. Nate always beat Quincy. You know, and Quincy's the guy Tyler, we'll get into it later, is the guy Tyler beat in the state finals. So we'll go deeper into your freshman year, Tyler, but talk about those like days when you're doing lessons with Nate and working out with him, and how was he as a partner, and how was that whole situation for you?
So it was actually kind of cool. So every day you'd come straight from Greeley practice there, and Nate would be on the side doing his homework, and then me and you would like warm up, and then you'd tell Nate to come with me. And that's actually how I got into my claw ride, because I remember all you would show me was claws and like how to like turn people from there, how to return people. So, I mean, I'm not going to get like too far ahead, but you wanted me to transfer because stuff were happening. And I was like, I don't know anyone there. And you were like, there's Nate, even though he's not on the team, you still know him. But yeah, it was kind of cool to like be close with a different team in a sense.
And what you used to say when we would do the car ride and somebody would trap your elbow and roll? You used to say something every time. What you used to say?
Oh, I completely forget.
You
I
know what I'm
mean,
talking about, though.
yeah, no, I would whisper in your ear.
I forgot what it was. Oh, geez, Louise. It was funny, coach. He was being a wise guy even back then. Like, I'm like, Tyler, stop. And he would like say something like silly or whatever. But again, to touch back on the club thing, and I think you brought up an interesting point there, Tyler, is when you get into club wrestling, yes, it's very serious. But like Coach DeBellis was saying about his boys before, you know, the camaraderie you kind of build. You know, you build a relationship with Nate, but you built a relationship with so many people, like, you know, AJ and
Yeah.
RJ and Camacho and Connecticut kids, and you know, every Dennis, you and Dennis, even though you guys live kind of close to each other, you know, I'm sure your friendship took another step because of the training you guys were doing together. Like, what do you say about that? We all know that club wrestling is hard and you get better at wrestling and it's all that. But how about the funness of it? Like, did you enjoy being part of that group?
Oh yeah, like even if they were out of state, like you said, Camacho, AJ, RJ, all of them,
Yeah.
like we would always go on trips together. We'd stay in the hotel rooms together, and it like created like a second family in a sense. Like you're doing absolutely everything together, and you're like experiencing like your accomplishments together. So just to see that, it's like it gives you a different perspective on things.
Yeah, and you guys like break each other's chops together. Like, coach, you've seen it, but like the humor in the room sometimes is the best. Like when they start taking shots at each other, and the thing that I like about it is that they could take it, they could give it, and they could take it, and I think it's great.
They're a true family. It's great.
It's a true family, and maybe you know everybody likes to think that John is the mean, you know, hard one, and we're definitely different. And there's definitely things that he does that I do not do.
Yeah.
But like I think I'm just as good, if not better, at throwing shots than he is. Like getting those real zingers, like those real stabs to the heart. Because we would have a blast. Like I would have to be quick on my feet though, because Tyler was so quick on his feet, and like Khalid back in the day was so quick on his feet. These guys like they knew how to have fun, right? Like, but I think it was always a good thing. And then Tyler, so let's go into that ninth grade year. What I know you ended up winning sectionals, but what happened most of the year? How was that for you?
So in the beginning of freshman year, I actually was going to quit wrestling because I was being pushed very hard and I wasn't used to it yet. And then so Coach Weaver took me out. He was like, just have fun this year. Like, don't worry about anything. Don't really cut weight. Just go out and have fun. And so my dad stepped away, and then John kind of laid off. But so then I just began to have fun with it again. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, just getting better instead of like being stuck in one spot and always focused on like what people were telling me. And I did what I needed to do. And then I ended up winning the section title that year.
You know what's interesting, Tyler? I actually forgot about that until you just said that. And
Yeah.
I think I remember when Nate quit, trying to get you to reach out to him because you went through a similar thing. I
Yeah.
remember saying like, you know, Tyler didn't like it, and then he won a section title, you know, and he was really happy. I'm sure he was happy he did that, you know, and I remember having you talk to him. And I think that's why I ended up doing privates with you, because John was pushing pretty hard, and then that's why we needed a little change of pace. So John was like, yeah, we should do privates with you then. And we switched it up, and then I guess but that to me shows again why John's such a good coach, because John, yeah, he could be a lot to handle sometimes, and he's a very emotional, and you know, everybody likes to think he's this crazy guy, but he's an emotional guy, and he like, you know, cares a lot and all that stuff. And instead of getting all like egotistical, saying, no, Tyler's a superstar, I need to work with him. He's like, oh, this isn't working for you, then that will work for you. And then like putting me there. And I think that's a sign of a good coach. That's something Coach DeBellis does a lot, you know, and I think anybody that cares about their athletes would say, let me step aside. If this isn't working, I'll step aside and I'll put somebody else in there that might mesh with that person a little bit better. Coach, what do you say about that?
You got to know your kid. And, you know, like even with – I do it with Nicky now. Hopefully he doesn't watch this. But, you know, I've been calling Tatora on the side and saying, hey, listen, you know, he's losing interest, this, that, the other thing. Or, you know, it's hard getting him to practice. And Nicky said, there's too much pressure on me. And I feel like I'm putting zero pressure. And Coach even affirms, oh, yeah, you're not putting it. But he feels it, so it's true. So you got to be careful with burnout. You know, you have success early, and then it starts to get tough again, especially freshman year because you move to a different weight class. You know, you're getting bigger. You're wrestling the older kids. You're not wrestling the 7th and 8th graders anymore.
And he did get a lot bigger, coach. Just man, you know, jumping from I think you were 106, Tyler, as an 8th grader. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then 120 as a 9th grader, and that's what he wanted. That's a big jump. So that makes it even more impressive. When it's, but to go back to the Nikki thing real quick, and Tyler, I want you to jump in as a third party guy that doesn't know maybe Nikki as well. I don't think you push Nikki hard at all. I think, well, obviously, I think you're a great dad, but that's neither here nor there really with this. But I think being the coach's son, even if you're not there and pushing him, I think there's that expectation that you need to be a superstar, even if you're not saying it to him. You know,
Yeah,
I think he probably thinks that, you know, and he shouldn't because you're not that guy to do that to him. But I think just because, like, he saw Jacob Ferreira, Aaron Walk, these winners around Joe all the time, like, oh, man, I'm his son. I need to do really, really good, which is silly. But, you know, I would think that's his thought because Tyler, coach, does not push him. What would you think, like, a 6th grader is going through his head? Why would he think there's too much pressure on him?
Honestly, like what I felt is I was like told to go to practice all the time. I was told to do my lifts, and then I would do like 2 practices a day. So like me being young, I felt like it was like putting a lot on my body and I couldn't handle it at the time. So personally, that's just how I felt with it. That's why I was like burning out a little in a sense, but that's why I threatened to quit, but ended up not quitting.
Yeah, good thing you didn't, because I don't know what I would have done in practice today if you quit. So
this interview would have sucked if you quit.
What'd you say?
This interview would have sucked.
It would have been awkward. Yeah, we would have been talking to an 8th
Why are
grader.
we talking to this kid?
Yeah, seriously. So you win sectionals, you go to states. How'd you do your freshman? It wasn't great freshman year at states, right? I can't really remember your state tournament.
I was winning both of my matches.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember
the
this.
third.
Because I gave you a lot. These are the daggers. These are the daggers. Yeah. This was brought up all summer by me, probably. Like, oh, Kyle, you want to lead and then lose it? Like, you know, like that kind of
thing.
Dominating.
I was like, this guy's killing him.
Yeah, it was tough.
But tough. A 9th grader, you know, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but Tyler was a 4-time state qualifier, but a 1-time section champ. So he was up at that tournament numerous times, and he progressively, I can't remember sophomore year, 8th grade, 11th grade was better than freshman year. I can't remember sophomore year really, but progressively, I feel like it got better until he hit the mecca there his senior year. But maybe experience up there was helpful, and just knowing that this is your last opportunity, let me take advantage of it, and he very much did. But what did that freshman year teach you? I know your goal at states wasn't reached, but you did win a section title. And after 8th grade summer or fall of 9th grade, you were kind of questionable about wrestling. Did winning sectionals, like I told you to tell Nate, did winning sectionals like reaffirm that, you know, I should stay in this thing? Like this is for me?
Yeah, because I was winning all the time freshman year. In a sense, like not like the major tournaments, but I was winning a lot of tournaments that I didn't win the year past. Yeah. And then so as most wrestlers know, as soon as you win, it gets the ball rolling and it makes you want to keep winning more and more. It's like a drug, winning. So then come state tournament, I got there. I was very nervous. It was my first time being up there competing in front of that many people. So my nerves got the best of me. I was, like everyone knows, I'm not the best third period wrestler. So I was always blowing leads in the third period, but it was honestly a learning experience so that the next year I can be more prepared for it.
Yeah. Well, hey, I would take a freshman year section title any day of the week. You know, it was a lot of fun to watch that.
Do you think your third period you think it's mental or physical? Or do you think it was? Because you overcame it, obviously.
I think it was more mental, like, because I was like, oh, I'm winning. Like, I got to stop wrestling. Like, not stop wrestling, but I would stop wrestling, and that would cost me the match instead of continuing to put on points.
To interject, too, I still think it's mental. And Tyler has still jump levels. But, like that what match? The match that he showed a difference in that was states, where the state finals with Quincy, he did not let off the gas. He looked great. I think he knew I have to do this. So, you know, we'll get more into that, but he did that. But even a couple matches his senior year, third period wasn't as good as maybe the first and the second and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's fully mental. I really do. Yeah. I think that's just pure mental. And I think he's getting – and it's hard to get over that mentally. It's not like, you know, a coach could say there, hey, get tougher. It has nothing to do with being tough. I don't think. I think it more has to do with, like, confidence and belief and and
Mhm.
trusting yourself. Like, can I
Yeah.
keep this
And
pace?
enjoying the moment, enjoying the moment.
Enjoying the moment, having fun, and not questioning what's going on in a sense. I think those things are important because, like, once you start thinking, like, I don't know if I could do this. This is going to be tough. This guy's putting a lot of pressure on me. This guy's putting a lot of pace on me. And all of a sudden, you start to dwindle because you're thinking those thoughts. But if you go
Yeah.
into that third period and you're kind of like, I'm going to put it on this guy now. Now I'm getting my second wind. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you're that guy that's doing it. And not to bring me into it because Tyler scores and does a lot of things to me now wrestling wise that he probably wouldn't have done even last year. But I like to think, even as a almost 34-year-old, when I'm wrestling, that I shouldn't. I'm not in the physical condition I was when I was 21, 22 years old. But mentally I kind of am because I think I am. I really think it's like that. What is that, Thomas the Tank Engine? Like, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Like, if you really think you can, you could surprise yourself because it's like,
Yeah.
wait, how the hell did I just do that? And Tyler, we'll pull that full circle your senior year because I think you really believed that you were supposed to do that and you went and did that. And I
Mhm.
think that's something you struggle with through the rest of your career. But hey, talk about, before we get too far, talk about sophomore year because I think you lost to, who'd you lose to in the section finals?
Someone
Strong
from
kid.
Mount Vernon.
Who was it?
Someone from Mount Vernon. I forget his name.
Yes, but a guy you should beat 9 out of 10 times. Let's combine both of these. 10th and 11th grade, you lost two matches that you probably shouldn't have lost. Carroll, you beat during the year earlier.
Yeah.
After winning your freshman year, what do you think kind of happens mentally there that causes something like that to happen? Like pressure? Like, what was it?
Yeah, so I was the returning champ. Like I had a target on my back, so people were gunning for me.
Mhm.
I forget how I did like at other tournaments. I know I didn't place at Eastern, I might have been like a blood round,
Mhm.
but I had a problem with cutting weight that year, so I would experience a lot of like migraines and stuff. So like I was doing it completely wrong, and then the second tournament came around, and I didn't have my best tournament. And then come the finals, I get taken down in the first like 3 seconds of the match. And then from there, I had to come back, and I made my way back, and I gave up a takedown in the final seconds and ended up losing 5-4. So that stung. And then that's pretty much how my sophomore year went. I didn't do much at States either.
No, and then we get into junior year, and again, well. What year was it? After sophomore year or junior year that you guys were thinking of coming to Greeley?
After junior year, I was
Okay, so
going into senior
we had,
year.
we had a great freshman year.
Mhm.
We had I mean, to most people's scales, taking second to section as sophomore is not bad, but when you're returning section champ, it's a sting. It stings. And then
Yeah.
your junior year, though, I feel like you had a great regular season pretty much.
Yeah.
And then you had that hiccup at the section finals. When that happened twice in a row, was that really hard to deal with mentally?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That really stung.
How'd you get over it?
Um, I didn't really get over it because come the state tournament, I ended up losing to him again in the blood round. So in my head, I was like, dang, like I should have done more. I could have done more, but I didn't. So
I think personally, your junior year into your senior year was probably the hardest you trained because you were lifting a lot, you were at the club a lot, you were very rarely missing practice, you were asking me to go more often. And I think, obviously you got bigger, but your sophomore year and your junior year, you wouldn't ask me to go because even
yeah,
though you were smaller than me, I wasn't going to crush you with my weight, but I was going to make you tired. Like, you knew that
yeah,
was going to be annoying to wrestle with me. And you kind of stayed away from that. While your senior year, you would come to Greeley to wrestle with me. We would wrestle at practice.
mhm,
Over the summer, that summer we wrestled. I think there's a lot of maturity. I also think, you might have changed a couple people you were hanging out with and things, and you got focused.
yeah.
Do you think it was because the sting of the two times it happening that got focused, or did you know, or was it a little bit of both? Maybe like you knew it was your senior year, I need to go. Like, what kind of made you say, hey, like, this is my last shot at this. I'm gonna put my all into it. Like, after two heartbreaking losses, it's hard to stay motivated. Like, what kept you
Yeah.
so motivated?
I would say it was both like the stinging, and I knew it was my last chance to like accomplish my goals. So that summer, junior going into senior year, I wrestled up at NHSEA national duels,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up wrestling this kid that was ranked, I believe, third or fourth in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And like to me, this is a big takeaway because I don't really compete with those guys. Like I never really had a shot with them, but I was winning 4-3 going into the third, and then I ended up losing 10-4. But for me to do that, it really like showed me how good I was and that I could be that good. And then later on in the dual meet tournament, I beat like a 3-time Michigan State champ. So for me to be only a 1-time section champ, and then going beating a 3-time state champion, like it made me realize how good I really was, and that I just had to start believing myself. And that's when I really did believe in myself.
Yeah. And I think, Coach, you could jump in on this too. But I think at that point, like the club goes in peaks and valleys, right? We're always good. But Tyler's sophomore year, I believe, is the year that, like, you know, we had Grippy, we had Grant, we had Camacho, we had Jigga Ferreira, we had a lot of studs, right? The next year we kind of took a down year. Not down, but it was not as good maybe. And then Tyler's senior year, we have guys like AJ, RJ, Tyler. You know, Quincy got really good, which we'll talk about that weird thing. But we had a lot of like studs. I feel like they kind of get better together. You know, they're Dennis. You know, these guys are in that core group. It's like you stay long enough, you stay together long enough, and you're all like-minded. It's gonna start to pay off. Like, you know, you're gonna achieve together, like Tyler said earlier. But I noticed a big difference, and and when we talked about this was not a knock at Coach Jamie or anything like that. But after his junior year, you know, I talked to his dad a little bit, and his dad was showing some interest, and I was talking to him, and I obviously was showing some interest. It wasn't Tyler really. We spoke about him possibly coming to Greeley. I think it was actually way closer than people think. Like, it was a thing.
Yeah.
I think that Tyler, you could speak on this yourself. I think he really loves Coach Jamie, and I don't blame him. He's a great guy. I think he didn't want to abandon the program, and I think he didn't want to leave his friends at school. And I think Pete kind of felt the same, and I kind of felt the same too. You know, he had to, you know, open door at Greeley, but I didn't want him to turn his back on Coach Jamie. What, to me, you know, not to put Tyler's business on the street, because we're not going to get too deep into this, but there were some people he probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. So to me, it was like, hey, let's get away from those people, you know, come to Greeley, and I could wrestle with you every day, and you're going to win a state title. Well, long story short, he stays at John Jay. He kind of stops hanging out with the wrong type of people. He's doing the right stuff, and he wins a state title anyways with his coach, with his high school coach that's been his high school coach, who cares about Tyler deeply. So to me, it was a happy ending. But explain to me maybe like the thoughts your junior year of like what was going on for you to say, like, I need to make a change maybe. Like, I need to reroute. I need to either change my wrestling habits, my hanging out habits, my school. Like, I need to do something to make sure I win a state title. How is that, like, mentally dealing with all those thoughts kind of your junior year?
I mean, I noticed that I needed to make a change because something wasn't working. So, yeah, I did stop hanging out with some people. I put more time into the sport, and like my mentality changed. Like I wanted to win more than I did before. And so with going to Greeley, yeah, I didn't want to leave Coach Weaver behind.
Yeah.
And then all my close friends, we were all there. We wanted to experience senior year together. But if I wanted to make that sacrifice and staying, I knew I had to train a lot harder, which I ended up doing because I would be lifting all the time. I'd be wrestling twice a day for 6 days a week. So
yeah, he would come, like, Coach, he was one of those guys that would go to his high school practice. I'm sure Jamie pushed him hard, but, you know, he probably didn't have the best individual workout partner. And he would come to the club, and me and him would wrestle that night. Or he would come to a Saturday practice and we would scrap, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, you showed to me, so, which is interesting, and I'll say this, is going into that year, we have studs, Coach. We have Dennis, that I thought could probably have been around a 45-pounder. You had AJ, who I thought could have been around a 52-pounder. Unfortunately got injured, but still made the finals. I think he beats, if that Pine Bush kid is listening, you're very good, but that's the one you got on AJ, and that'll be the last one you ever get on AJ. But good for you, state champ. And then I thought Tyler 60, Quincy 70, right? Because all summer I was wrestling with Quincy and Tyler, but I'm like, Jesus, both these guys are getting good. And it was such different styles. Totally different, like totally different. I guess you could say there was similarities, that Tyler did used to like to double, and he does sometimes still. But Quincy had a real good double, and it's just like different. Tyler was a beast on top. And I remember talking to his dad, and I'm like, I don't know. He's like, who's going to win? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, Tyler's probably technically better, but they are just so different. Like, they're just so different. And I kept saying to Pete, I'm like, I hope Tyler goes 60. I hope AJ goes 52. I hope Dennis goes 45. We could have 4 state champs in a row, probably. I mean, realistically, we really could have. But it ended up working out that they ended up being the same weight. And we go to Eastern States, and I'm gonna let Tyler talk about his senior year, of course, but we go to Eastern State's, Tyler takes second, and I think Quincy loses in the round of 12. And everybody and their mother is like, Tyler should say 70. There's no way Quincy can handle him or hang with him. But I knew, right? And it's not that they wrestled each other.
Quincy had a bad tournament, Eastern
Quincy had
State.
a bad tournament. I knew how good Quincy was, and
Yeah,
I knew that they were going to meet again. And I knew it was going to be a good match. And I knew there was a chance that those two were the best two guys in the state at that weight class. And I was right? I knew that Tyler could win for sure, and he did. But I knew that those two might be the cream of the crop. And I find it very interesting that not only was I right on that they were the cream of the crop, but they were two club mates that knew each other for a very long time. And they wrestled in the section finals and then the state finals. And, they trade wins there, and I find that very interesting. What's that?
You know when they met?
They played football together.
Where, though?
John Jay?
Yeah, Quincy was a John Jay kid.
I know. Yeah, what are you trying to tell me, D?
I thought I had the scoop.
Come on, D. Nobody has a scoop on me. So, Tyler, talk about your senior year. Let's go from, you're crushing it, but Eastern States was a great tournament. Your confidence had to be all-time high. I remember you were really light around Eastern States, and your dad was like, should he go down? I'm like, hey, he's the guy. I remember before Eastern States, I think, saying, let's see how he does at Easterns. Him and Quincy will be in the same weight. Let's see how he does at Easterns. And you made the finals. And I think that was kind of the nail in the head that was like, we're staying at 70. So talk me through that a little bit, the whole thing.
Yeah, so senior year, I started off at 170. We were wrestling up at Shen, and I ended up facing the number one guy for Division II. And I handled him. It was like a 6-3 win or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'm the guy at 170 right now. And then comes Mid-Hudson's. I take a loss that I shouldn't have got. My gas tank wasn't there at the time. And so that's when I started questioning, maybe I should drop, and maybe I can't handle 170 right now, because this is the first tournament that it's 172. So then Easterns is coming around, and I'm like, I'm going to wrestle 170 and see how I do there, because all the top guys in the state are going to be there. And so day one, I almost had a scare. I ended up going to OT with someone that I shouldn't have. And so then I'm like, all right, I really got to step it up tomorrow. And then I almost get attacked. I'm like 2 points off in the quarterfinals. And then in the semifinals, I pinned the kid that just pinned Quincy before. So I'm like, I'm on a high there. And then I end up losing to the Wyoming Sem kid in the finals. But for me to be like, I'm the best guy in the state at 170 right now, I knew it in my head. So I was like, why fix what's not broken? I'm just going to stay up at 170 and win everything.
Now, here's a question, though. Did you think, because I know as a coach, I coached both you guys, it was very possible. And I think nobody else in New York State probably thought it, but of course I'm biased. But I did see you guys compete a lot. So not with each other, but I wrestled both of you a lot. I got my hands on both of you guys a lot. So I knew you both were killers. Did you think, though, because you and Quincy did not wrestle that much, especially when you guys knew you were going to be the same weight class. Did you think that after his Eastern State showing that he could be the guy that you would be wrestling in the state finals? Or did you think he might have been like 5th, 6th kind of guy, a little bit below you guys?
I thought he would be 3 through 5, just because I wrestled him a couple times in the room, and I'm not the best practice wrestler. I still go hard, but I'm a lot better in matches. And he would give it to me in practice. But I knew in a match, my mindset was completely different than when it was in practice. So I knew I was the guy. But personally, I thought he was like 3 to 5. He's a great competitor, but I just didn't think he was as good as me come competition.
Yeah. Now, Coach, think about this. Here comes we talked about before to Tyler, how much it stung to get 2 section title losses after winning as a freshman. And now going into the section tournament his senior year, he's probably the favorite to win a state title, right, going into the tournament. But Quincy, I think at this time is now ranked, like Tyler was saying, probably like a 4th to 6th range. He was probably ranked. He was very good. But, so it's an anticipated section final. But a lot of people are still picking Tyler probably pretty handily because he's the best guy in the state. And then Quincy wrestled a great match. I mean, he wrestled a really, really good. It was a crazy. Tyler put him on his back. Quincy fought off. It was a crazy match of 2 studs. But Quincy got his hand raised. And like Tyler said, he thought he was the guy, and he ended up being the guy, right? And he won when it really, really counted, and it showed that he was the guy. But there has to be some doubt that goes into your mind when it's like, damn it, I did this, doubt and heartbreak because section title does not matter nearly as much as state title. If you knew that you were going to win a state title in 2 weeks, nobody would have cared about that. But you didn't know. You didn't know. It wasn't. You didn't have like a crystal ball. So in your head, you're like, shit. I won a section championship as a ninth grader, and I didn't win it again. And now I'm going to states, and states hasn't worked out too great for me. So how do I know how this is going to go? And then you also realize, like, Jesus Christ, Quincy might be huge competition for me because he just got a win over me. Mm-hmm. How do you take all of that information and refocus and then have a insanely impressive state tournament run? Like, how do you do that?
So I'm going to start with the section and finals match. I was very nervous because I knew I had to win. Like, it was my last chance of getting a section title. Like, I can't be a one-timer, but a 4-time state qualifier.
Yeah.
So for me, like, that first match, like, we've known each other for our whole lives. So it was more personal. And I went in like stiff. I was not relaxed at all. And for me to be down early, like, he took me down at the end of the first, and then right away he took me down in the second period. So I'm like, oh shoot, like, I got to do something. And I couldn't finish my attacks. I was in multiple times, but I couldn't capitalize. And then come the third, he gets out right away after I choose top, which is my best position. He gets out. So in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this match. And so then he shoots in right away, gets to my leg. So for me to get that big move and holding him on his back, I'm winning 6-5 at the time, I believe. So all I'm thinking in my head is I have to keep him here for a minute and 40 seconds, and then I win the match. Like, I wasn't thinking about letting him off his back, turning him, because I knew I could. But for me, that match was more mental because I thought to myself, I needed to win that match.
Yeah, I think that was great. It was a crazy match, and I think we'll try to get Quincy maybe on this one day too. But for him, that has to be a highlight for him because he was on his back. He ended up getting off his back. It was crazy. It was watching, and for me, as a guy that coaches both these guys, it was freaking tough to watch. Like, any of it. Like when Tyler, when Tyler was getting down, I'm like, Jesus, what's Tyler doing? He puts him on his back. I'm like, what is happening? Like, what's happening? It was like, they were all over the place. But I think I came up to you, Tyler. I talked to you a little bit. I didn't want to rub any, like, make you feel worse or whatever. And it's awkward because of Quincy and all that stuff. But I think I remember saying, hey, you'll get a wild card and 2 weeks is what really matters. Let's see what you could do, or something along those lines. And, I had the same talk with Jacob Ferreira after his senior year. And Jacob, he didn't he tables. He made it to the state finals though. And he lost a 5-3 match to Jake Logan. So I think Jacob will be happy that he took that, refocus and still got to the state finals. Was it hard for you, Tyler, to refocus, or did that make you a little bit more hungry, or like how did that affect you?
I mean, for the first week, I was hurting. And then the second week, prior to the state tournament, I realized I was like, this is my last time competing. I'm not going to dwell on this. Like, it's my last high school tournament, so I might as well just go out and have fun. So that was my mindset going into the state tournament. It was just like, whatever happens, just let it fly, like, have fun for the last time.
Yeah, and if I remember right, you dominated pretty much the whole tournament. Yeah. What was your closest match there?
6-4, but it was very controlling, and it was like 6-2, and I gave up 2 stall points in the third period.
So we get to, what's crazy to Bellis is, I know you remember, is Tyler never really got me nervous that tournament. I was watching Tyler's matches. I'm like, he's got this kid. He's got this kid. He's got this kid. Quincy won like 2 or 3, like,
nail biters.
Oh my God. Like,
didn't he beat the first seed?
Yeah, I think Moriello was the first.
You were 2 or you were 3?
I was the 3 seed.
You were the 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost, and he wrestled the 1 seed, and nobody had Quincy beating that kid.
He beat Moriello in the quarters, who I think was the 1.
Yeah.
And he broke him and got like 4 or 5 points in the third period. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then in the semis, he beat the kid that Tyler pinned at Easterns that pinned Quincy.
Yeah.
He beat him. And that's the kid that Aaron Walk pinned in the semifinals of states the year before. So Quincy got that kid back. And then that made the match. And I remember talking to both of them separately before the finals and saying, hey, man, I don't know. I don't remember if I gave him like words of wisdom or not, but I remember saying something along the lines like, look, if you win, I'm going to be really happy for you, but I can't run over to you and like throw you over my shoulder because the other guy that I coach as well just lost the probably heartbreakingest match of their life. So it's like, it kind of puts me in a weird position. But I remember watching Tyler win, and to me, and he wrestled a perfect match. I'll let Tyler talk about that. I mean, dominated Quincy, didn't make a mistake, was good in the third period, just good. It was just a great, great dominant match. And I remember watching him wrestle and thinking in my head, like, I remember this guy as a fifth grader, and now he's on this big stage, not only winning a state title, but doing it in this fashion.
And handling himself.
Handling himself and just like handling the pressure of it. And after dealing with 3 section title losses in a row, and not getting the state tournament results 3 years in a row, to finally, like, you wouldn't be able to guess that for anybody. Say, hey, I bet you'll win a section title as your freshman year, but you'll never win another one of those. But you'll win a state title your senior year. You can't even think that up. How did that all feel, Tyler, for you when it all kind of came together there?
It was crazy, that match. So before the match, I was in the locker room for the whole entire finals. Like, I watched PJ wrestle, and then after that, I went straight down to the locker room, and I was chilling in there. And then AJ was wrestling at the time, and I came out to like the warm-up area, and I saw Quincy there, and like me, like I was just being a goofball that day. Yeah. I was like excited to be out there. So my coach was like, "Why are you laughing? Like, you're about to wrestle the biggest match of your life." And I was like, "Dude, I'm just having fun right now." And so we get out on the mat, and like they're announcing our names and stuff, and I hear Jay call my name, and so instantly, like I laugh like right away. And I just see my coach look at me, and he's like, I know I got this. Like, I'm going to win. So for me to be able to capitalize on finishing my shots was game changer. And then, so I was able to finish my first attack. And then for me to turn him, that's when I knew right away. I was like, this is my match to win. And after, when I looked at the clock, we went out of bounds with like 23 seconds left, or I took a stall call with 23 seconds left or something like that. I looked at the clock and I was winning 9-0. I was like, is this really happening right now? Like, I can't believe I'm actually winning a state title. And so for the clock to wind down and I finally achieved my goal, it was crazy. Like, I can't describe the feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know it, right? Because I never got that. So for you did something that a lot of people never achieve. I mean, all the years of like hard work, it paid. Your brother ended up being a 2-time NCAA champ. He's a superstar. He's a great wrestler, and he lost in that match because it's a tough match to win. Take away the skill of it, the pressure of it, to go out there and win a state title is not an easy task. And obviously, and you went out there and you did it. And, I remember when you won, looking at your like little fan section there and seeing how happy, Jay was, and, your dad, obviously, and your mom and your sister. And, I know they had a lot to do. Your dad was always at wrestling stuff and always trying to help you out the best he could. Your mom was always super supportive. And obviously Jay was a super supportive older brother. But, you had people like the Dukes that loved you guys, that were cheering. And I think if you talk to Pete or PJ, they love Quincy too. But there was definitely a different connection with you guys and the Dukes. And, I look at stuff like that when that happens, right? I look around and I see, how people are reacting, and I try to find Quincy's mom and see how she's reacting, and stuff like that. And she still should be, super proud of Quincy because he did an unbelievable job. That kid went from like a, so-so freshman wrestler to a state finalist. I mean, he did incredible. But the feeling for you, Tyler, of like the hard work paying off must have been something that you'll never forget. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, because out of all the years that I've trained, that was the one thing I wanted. And for me to come short countless amounts of times, and then for me to finally achieve it, it was like being on a high that you've never been on before.
Yeah, you can't. I could feel, even as a coach, watching guys like you win it. Again, your match was a little different because it was 2 teammates, but like, watching Aaron win it and watching other guys win it in years past, the high I got as a coach, knowing that their hard work paid off, was something that you can't really explain either. So I can only imagine how it feels as an athlete. It's probably even better. I would think it's better because it's you. It's you. Yeah. But it was fun to watch. And sometimes, like I said, it's hard to believe, like a young guy like you as a 5th grader would turn into this guy that's winning a state tournament like that. But it was great. What did Jay say anything to you after the match?
So the first thing I said to him was, I busted his balls, and I was like, I'm the only Albis to win it. Ever win the title. And he knew it was coming because I told him before the match, I was like, I'm gonna say it to you if I win. But
go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
No, proceed.
Oh, she's
No, I wasn't gonna say anything. I wasn't gonna say anything.
Proceed.
All right. He's a wise
He's
guy.
a real college guy. I love it.
State champ, you know. But I'm gonna push back a little bit on something Tyler said. Not push back because he didn't say negative stuff about this, but he said, I've been working my whole career for this, and I got it, and it paid off, and all of that. Yes, and you should feel relief, and it's a weight off your shoulders. But I will push back in the sense that if that match does not go your way, that all that stuff you put in was still worth it. Yes, you get it's like you're dieting and you have a cheat day on a Saturday and you get this big cake. The cake's gonna taste really freaking good, and that's the state championship, right? That's that cake. But what you put into that week of training, it still made you better, right?
Yeah.
It still made you better. So I'm very proud of you and happy that you got that state title because it was a great moment and something that you'll never forget. It's something you'll tell your kids about. It's something they'll tell their kids about. My grandpa was a state champion, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't go away. It's awesome. But I think that the journey that got you there probably molded you into the person that you're going to become. And I think that's just as important, if not more important. So, that's something there. Now, before we jump into a little college, a little bit post high school wrestling that you're doing now at the club and helping out and stuff, this is putting you on the spot a little bit. It's nothing crazy. I'm just curious because I asked a couple of people this, but I didn't ask the last 2 interviews, I don't think. But do you remember a workout at the club that was particularly crazy hard that you'll never forget? Was there a day that you were like, holy cow, I can't believe these crazy people are making us do this?
So I forget, it might have been training for Super 32, but when John had all 4 ropes down, he would put us in a group of 4 and one man would be in the center. And after every single takedown, you'd have to climb a rope and then get right back in there. I forget how long we were going, but I know that was the hardest practice I've ever had in my life.
Who else brought that up, Coach?
It might have been RJ.
Are you sure? Because I think Jay was.
I was just throwing out anybody. I had no idea.
Adam, because it was Jay. Because Jay was in the group with him. It was like that age group.
Might have been Adam, yeah.
It might have been Adam, but that's crazy that same workout was brought up.
I mean, bring that one back.
Well, we have. I mean, we did last year, I think. But there's so many. What's funny as a coach, I probably could think of more workouts than Tyler could think of, right? Because there's days that weren't that hard for Tyler that were harder for other kids that we pushed them really hard. But I do find it interesting with all the brutal workouts that we have put kids through that one came up twice. So that goes to show you that one was.
On the rope, you come down, you do a takedown, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
You got to get 10 takedowns.
Yeah, you got or it doesn't count, or you have to climb a rope and go again.
But if the guy beats you, you go down one, right?
Go down one, I think. Yeah.
So you gain one, but when you lose 2.
And these guys are fresh, waiting for you. So that's it's like they're little sharks waiting for you. You're like the chum they're throwing in the water. Yeah. But we've done some ones with burpees, right? You have to do a minute of burpees and then you have to get the takedown while the guy's fresh waiting for you. You're exhausted in the third period. There's a lot of things we've done that have been pretty freaking brutal. And I think that's the difference with us and other clubs. I think we have fun. Ty will say we joke around and we have a good time, but our guys are tough. Our guys are tough. And Tyler will joke around and say, oh, I would disappear when you would say do this or do that. He was funny. I would get on him sometimes. But when push came to shove, he was ready to go, and it showed. And I think it's good, too, to have a good give and take with your coaches where you could joke around like Tyler did and Dennis and those guys. We had fun. It made, like Tyler said, he was having fun his senior year at States. You do need to go into the deep waters. If you never go in the deep waters, you'll drown when you get in there in a real match. You need to find a way to put yourself in the deep waters and trust your coaches and do that. But it doesn't always have to be that, right? It could be some laughs. It could be some jokes, and it could be some fun. Because if you're not having fun in wrestling, you're not going to get good because it's friggin' hard. Tyler, you would agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's like that. So now high school ends. I think Tyler, and I'm not going to speak for you, Tyler, but I think you would have probably went to a couple off-season tournaments if this whole COVID thing didn't get crazy in March. So you might have went to Pop and Flow and some other random tournaments, but, he caps it off with the state title. Thank God COVID doesn't hit for another 2 or 3 weeks. So we get the tournament over with and Tyler gets it. Because these poor kids this year might not get that opportunity. A guy like Chris Perry, who's only a year younger than him, doesn't get a chance to win maybe a prep national championship and get his moment, in the sunset like Tyler had. It doesn't change Chris. All the other stuff he did hopefully will pay off for him in college and all that stuff, but it sucks. But on the bright side for Tyler, he got his done. We get through the quarantine and we get back to practice. Or Tyler actually goes to Johnson Wales. We get back to practice for a little while, but then he goes to Johnson Wales. He's there. they end up going pretty much fully remote and they cancel their season. And Tyler is at practice now, helping, coach wrestling, me and him will work, but like, helping, coaching, and learning, and he'll be sending me videos now. He's doing more than he did in high school with stuff like that. He'll see something that he likes, and he'll send it to me, and we'll talk about it. I'll send him something I like. We'll talk about it. I see a change in maturity already. Tyler, what do you think? It's almost like you have a new love for wrestling, a different love for wrestling maybe than you did 11th and 12th grade. Something changed? Like, what is it? There's something different. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it.
I don't know. After I won that state title, like I said, like winning like makes you want to do it more. So, I got my surgery back in June, so I was off the mat for a while, and then I immediately wanted to get right back on it and start training again. So I was training, and then we get put remote, and then the season gets canceled. So then I'm just like, I want to compete more, and I just want to wrestle more, and I want to get better and learn more. So that's probably why I'm in love with the sport now, is because I want to be better. I have new goals to achieve, so I got to put in the work.
Yeah, and he's doing that work, coach. Like, he's getting workouts with his brother. He's coming with me. He's wrestling with me, 2 or 3 times a week, and then he's working with Jay and those guys over there, and he's learning, and he's sending me stuff. Like, there was a new I showed a new technique today that I saw, but I didn't know. But I had Tyler show it, and he did a real, because we like looked at the tape together. We kind of chopped it up, and he showed it great. And there's a new technique that he's learning that Jay does, like a split step it's called, which I found very interesting. And Tyler's helping me learn it so I could show it to the other kids. And, it's just, he's becoming more of a student of the game. And I think that's how you're going to, at the next level, everybody's going to be good. Like, what are you going to do to make that jump?
I don't know if they're going to be as good. I think Tyler's going to do very well.
Oh yeah, I think Tyler is very likely national champ in my eyes, but like, he has to, again, I think the biggest thing, and Tyler I think would admit this, is he's getting, not that he wasn't tough, he's getting more confident in his sprints and his pushes and his fight, right? I think as long as he keeps doing that, because if you're in the NCAA semifinals, you're going to have to go into the deep orders. And Jay will tell you, watching those matches, he went to the deep orders a bunch of times and he survived, and the other guy didn't. And that's why I think that's why he was an NCAA champ, amongst other reasons. But yeah, I mean, we'll wrap this thing up soon, Tyler. But I'm very excited to see what you do on this next level here. What we'll do is, D, you get your last words, I'll get my last words, and Tyler, you wrap this sucker up for us, okay?
Well, Tyler, it's been a pleasure to watch you throughout high school, and I'm sure the college is going to be even better. I think you figured it out.
Thank you.
Two things that I would say that you figured out in my eyes through this interview. One is, you're a better wrestler when you're having fun.
Yeah.
And just enjoying it. And I hate to say it, and I don't want to screw up your college career by saying this, but I think you're better when you're heavier. I think you're happier when you're heavier. You got, you don't need to cut a lot of weight. Just wrestle. Just wrestle.
Seem to be right on that one. I mean, high school career showed that. Couple things before my brain forgets. My brain's all over the place, but one thing is, Tyler, just so you know, I made an appointment today with a physical therapist on Wednesday. So all these aches and pains I have that are slowing me down, they're going away. So be ready. Okay, so that's happening. Okay. Well, Eddie says okay. He does that with his hair like I'm some chump.
My hair was messed
I'm
up.
some chump, coach. Like I'm some chump. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm some chump. Whatever. Forget me.
Wild, though. I cannot believe you have injuries.
They're not real injuries. They're just, I'm mentally thinking they're injuries. I gotta get over myself.
Oh,
Anyway, what I didn't mention earlier in the interview that I wanted to bring up now is that Tyler's willingness to help. I talked about how he was helping out with practice now, but even as a high school guy, if I threw him when he was a freshman, if I had him wrestling with Nate, he would show Nate stuff. He wouldn't just drill with them. He would work with them, right? Sophomore, junior year, same thing. Senior year, when I had the girls there, right? When I had the Lexi Bells and the Dejas and all those girls up there, if I said, hey, Tyler, can you work with Deja and show her how to do a tilt? He'd go over there and do it. He would never say no. He would work on it. And to me, like I said before, winning a state title is super important, but becoming a good person, I think, is even more important. And he, that's his dad and mom, of course, but, I think wrestling does help with stuff like that. And Tyler was always a good kid, and he will continue to be a good kid, and he will continue to make us and his family proud. So I'm excited to watch how that goes. But just with wrestling, we're super proud of you, being that little 6th grade state champ to being that 12th grade state champ. Crazy trajectory. I think you're going to be an NCAA champ in college, but like I've been saying, as long as you keep doing the right stuff, the process will pay off for you, whether it's with a national title or whether it's with the job you want or whether it's a family that you want. It's all going to be worth it at the end of the day. And I think you realize that now. I think when you were younger, you weren't mature enough to realize it, but I think you get it now. And I think the sky's the limit for you. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. So Tyler, wrap us up and then we'll stop recording.
I think you should become a teacher.
A teacher?
I think you'd be a good teacher.
You'd be an awesome teacher and a coach.
No, I don't want to be a teacher. I'm not that good in school. Come on.
I'm not good at school either. Look at me.
You know who you're talking to? Let me hit the tour over here. We were like the what?
Oh, I thought you said just tutorial.
No.
No, come on. I wouldn't do that to you.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm not good at reading books and words. Tyler, go on, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And you're one of the key components to my success. And just be ready for practice on Tuesday.
You heard the buzz say thank you, you wise man. I'll be ready. And Tyler, I'm not gonna like jump in for you, but I would like to thank for you, because you did such a good job in this interview. It's hard to interview, but just thinking about your dad with that silly iPad all the time, videotaping all your matches, every once in a while I have to say to your dad, I would never say be quiet, but in my head I'm like, Jesus Christ, Pete, what are you talking about right now? But he just loved the shit out of Tyler. He just loves him, and that's great. And he's a great dad, and your mom's great, and Coach Weaver's great. There's that guy with the muscles over there. I don't know who he is, but he's there sometimes. He's cool, I guess. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know his name.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
That guy. And Jay, of course, the big brother, who was always probably a good reinforcer in your ear, saying the right stuff. So we're really proud of you. I'm sure your family would echo what I just said. And yeah, I'm ready for Tuesday. I'll see you there.
All right.
All right. Stay on for a second, Tyler. I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah.